Welcome back to the podcast room. We are joined today again with the most beautiful co-host in the entire world, Mr. Josh Hauser. And we've invited today Daniel Kelsey, who is going to be our 912 director, Camp 912. And we just want to hear about him and who he is. And Daniel, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are as a person?
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me on today. I mean, this is cool. This is the first time I've been on a podcast, so definitely saying, we're gonna set the bar
real low.
Set it high
No.
We'll see. Okay, all right.
It's all uphill from here.
Definitely. Yeah. There we go. I like that. I'm originally from Indiana. I've been here in Ohio for about 5 years now.
Nice.
My wife Sarah and I live up in Miamisburg. We just had our first daughter, Lucy, last summer. So Lucy will be
during summer camp.
Yes, I was supposed to direct. I was supposed to direct 912 for the first time.
Just horrible planning on your part, right?
Yeah. All right. So here's the whole story. This may be deeper than we need to go for the podcast. But here's the whole story. Right, so 2 years ago, Andy and I co-directed 912 together. I said, let's co-direct it for a year together first. I'll get the hang of the ropes, and then I'll take it over the following summer. Yeah. And so the fall before camp last year, my wife and I found out we're pregnant. We go home. We tell my wife's family over Christmas, over New Year's. And when we get back here to Ohio, about the first phone call I made was to Andy because our daughter was supposed to come on July 3rd. And so I called him and said, hey, man, like we are having our first kid 3 weeks after camp. Let's plan on me still directing it, but
there's an off chance, right?
Let's find out. So literally from January to June, my daughter ended up being born 3 weeks early. We actually ended up having to go over to Indianapolis for the C-section. We actually had to relocate over there 10 days before she was born.
That's a huge,
Yes.
Just because of the facility over there? What?
So, because of my wife's medical history, we knew it was going to be a high-risk pregnancy. And then the further we got into it, the more, we kept going to doctor's appointments where it was she's going to come 2 weeks early. She's going to come 3 weeks early. Oh. You're going to need to go to Indianapolis for the delivery 3 weeks early.
Okay, that makes sense.
You're going to need to go to Indianapolis a week before you have the delivery. So, every month, me and Andy would talk about camp. And every month, it was, a little bit less that I was going to be there. Hey, we'll co-direct it. Hey, I'll just be there during the day, but not spending the nights. Yeah. Hey, I'll be there at registration. Yeah. Hey, I'm actually going to be gone a week before camp starts. So no surprises this year. Thrilled to actually be directing camp for the first time this year.
Yes.
But our daughter.
Well, Lucy, now that you've had a year off, right? We expect full force coming back in, right? Yeah, you've had the break.
For it now. Never mind that he's been raising a baby.
Yeah.
No, I mean, hopefully my wife and Lucy, our daughter, are here some during camp this year. Her first birthday will be during Camp 912, so that'll be awesome to celebrate.
That'll be a blast.
We love the outdoors. We love hiking in our free time. We love board games. We love getting together at the house with friends and playing board games. Both of us are athletes. When we were dating in college, we could go to the gym and just shoot hoops. And then
you don't have to listen. You don't got to rub it in me and Josh's face. Normally, me and Josh are talking about pizza or White Castle or usually Indian food, right?
Indian food, yes.
And he's like, I like to run and climb and hike. And we're like, shut up, Daniel. Get out of here.
Taco Bell is still a favorite. Pizza is a favorite. We could do tacos and pizza just about every night of the week. So we play the sports so we can eat the food,
there you go. You balance it out.
Well, as a youth leader, there's a lot of pizza involved, so you got to balance it.
Yeah.
I also noticed that the older I get, the more sports I watch and the less I play. So, I made a joke in a sermon one time about being, a former athlete at this point in life.
Well, that's first off, congratulations on obviously your first kid. She'll be a year here soon. Do you guys? I mean, not that we're going to share any of this information. Do you guys see having more kids in the future, or do you think just one and done? Right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we'll have,
see what happens, right?
We'll take as many kids as God gives us.
Well,
my wife and I are both the oldest of 5 kids.
Oh, wow.
We're 35 right now, so I don't think we're going to get to 5 kids, but we're okay if it's more than one. So.
Yeah. Well, I always ask because everybody always asks us, we just had our third. Yeah. And they're like, you done at 3? I was like, bro, I was done at 2. But God's like, gotcha.
Yeah, whatever plans God got.
Yeah, right.
Works for us.
Yeah. Well, you're joining us for 912 camp. You like you said, you have history of being at camp. Where are you at church? Where do you go to church? What's your role things of that nature.
Yeah, so we're at First Church Miamisburg. I'm the youth pastor there, kind of / jack of all trades, right? Like the majority of
You've been there for a hot minute, though, ain't you?
Yeah, so we moved here in February of 2020. We moved to Ohio a month before COVID.
The worst time. You ditch out on summer camps because of bad timing. You move here in 2020, bad timing.
Yeah, we got here, and I'm hearing about Camp Lebanon. I'm pretty sure one of the first Camp Lebanon meetings we went to was at your church, Josh.
Oh, yeah.
We're sitting in like your community room or your fellowship hall or something. Like everyone is like 6 feet apart because we're trying to have the meeting socially distanced. We had like camp quarantine here this summer, so I'm at camp, and Noah Light is having me hop on a golf cart to drive me all around the campground because that's the only way I'm going to get to see the whole camp.
That year was wild. The drive-through camp to like meet people, get a shirt. That was bizarre.
Yeah.
Put it.
I'm glad we're not doing that now.
Yeah. Are you enjoying being at Miamisburg? You said youth pastor kind of jack all trades. Usually youth pastor kind of turns into, I guess, like associate or whatever. Like they end up filling a lot of the holes that are.
Too. We just we had about a year and a half where we didn't have a lead pastor, and so specifically in that year and a half, we had an interim pastor, but there was, I don't know, it's all the stuff that they don't teach you when you go to school for ministry. We hired a new lead pastor about 6 months ago. His name's Terry McKinney. His wife's name is Amy. She works as our administrator, and so it's been
I hear
them on staff.
I hear good things about them.
Oh, they're cool.
Just because you're on camera doesn't mean you have to say good things. Once we're done, then you can really tell us what you think. No, I'm just kidding.
They're good. I'm glad to have them on staff, and it's a cool process again to know them better, and just a whole new.
We always ask like people that are in youth ministry. Do you ever see yourself not transitioning upward, but like is that like future goal for you, or like right now you're just like, this is where I'm at, like this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that I've thought about in the future for sure. I've never felt. I think it's really cool the way that God works in our lives to call us to a place and to a job and to a vocation. And I know that people have all different experiences of God's calling on their life. It'd be cool to hear, you guys' stories of the calling that God has put on your life. For me personally, I've never felt called, to one specific place. Like, God's calling me to be the youth pastor at this church, or the lead pastor at this church, or, this position in this town or in this state or something. It's always been more about like any place where I can share my faith with other people. And help people understand that the gospel is good news of God reconciling us to himself, and that brings eternal life, that brings abundant life, and that abundant life starts right now. That's not eternal life. That's not good news when we get to heaven. I mean, it is. That's when it's a party. But it's good news for right here and now too. And so if I can do that as a youth pastor, if I can do that with a nonprofit, if I can do that as a lead pastor,
being called more into the ministry itself, and not being like at a set location. I think that's an amazing mindset to have, because me and Josh and several others always have this conversation of capital C over lowercase c. Right?
Kingdom instead of just the local or just a church building.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. To see kind of almost being called into big picture instead of just saying, hey, I need you in this town for this one role, right? Like,
well, that's one of the really cool things about camp. I mean, honestly, like there are no full-time staff for our Camp Lebanon summer camps. The summer camps happen because of the Big C Church, all the little C churches that make up the Big C Church coming together in our area to put on a summer camp for all of our students.
Trying to explain that to other camps is so wild. When they're like, well, we have all of these people on staff. They're like, who's on staff? And we're like, it's all volunteers. Like up to the top dog, which is Andy right now. Like it's all just volunteer basis because they're just filling these roles and filling the needs.
So are other camps not doing that with their teens and kids?
Oh man, they like pay. Let's not tell people, but like they're hiring counselors, right? Like other camps are like paying, and that's why they're struggling on like budgetary stuff, because they're paying out weekly for counselors, and we have counselors that are jumping at the gun to pour into these students' life.
That's what lets us keep the price of camp what it is. We talked to a number of people who camps anywhere from $300 up to $600.
Yeah, we were hanging out at like Family Fun Day with a bunch of parents, and this one mom was like, "It's $300 a student," and I was like, "It's half of that." she was like, I have 2 kids. I'm paying $600. And I was like, you could have both kids and you only pay $300. I was like, I'm not going to ask you where to go to camp, and I'm not even going to ask you to come here. I'm just sharing information, ma'am.
There's some truth for you to reconcile.
Yeah, I'm just out here spreading the good news of Camp Lebanon.
Well, that's amazing. And I think then maybe that's a pat on the back for our leadership that have done camps, here at Lebanon or Southwest Ministries. While maybe some of the pastors are compensated by their churches, or the youth pastors or leaders and so forth, everybody's volunteer coming to work out here. And we see incredible ministry happening. It's been happening year over year over year. And we've shared a lot of those memories. And I think it's because we've attracted also in our congregations quality people like Daniel. I mean, as soon as Daniel started with the ordination process when we met, as he went through the credentialing process, and we got to meet a few times together. We went and had tacos more than a couple times.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Okay, and he's back on board with the tacos. Yeah, we get it.
And that's what I've seen out of Daniel, because it was a difficult time. I think that year and a half, while needing a pastor for Miamisburg Church, and Daniel was filling in a lot of those roles that he wasn't hired to do, essentially, but because he's called to ministry, called to the kingdom, and so that's a quality thing, and that works well with the leadership here on down. For our camps and all of our volunteers, we see that it's more about the kingdom than any personal.
Oh, absolutely. It's all of us coming together, right? Like it's that idea of it's probably such a trite expression at this point, but it's that idea of, like, it takes a village, right? Like, like at your church, it takes everybody being the body of Christ. There being no bench warmers. It's the exact same thing here with summer camps.
I mean, when you're in ministry, you got to be able to see the need, recognize the need, and then fulfill the need,
right?
And not end up in a church where what do they say? Like 8% of the church does 80% of the work or whatever. So
that's still going to happen. To 20-80, right? I mean, it's hard to get around that, but the healthier the 20% is, it's a better effect on the other 80.
And I think in this like vein of camp stuff that we're talking about is, like, we have made sure that we are not that we're not, but we're not like a drop off facility. It's not like Miamisburg Church is like, hey, we're going to send 10 kids. It's like, hey, we're going to send some kids and some counselors and some helpers, right? And every church is on the same mindset of like, hey, we're sending kids. Where else do you need help? Well, so-and-so can be in the kitchen Tuesday and Thursday to help out during high school week. Or, hey, so-and-so can help run a Bible track or a Devo time or an activity track or something like that, of that sense. Yeah, it's very much not a drop-off camp as much as it is like just everybody. I mean, I don't know a better phrase than it takes a village, right?
Yeah,
like, wherever we come up, someone will come up with a better one for us.
It's true, though.
But I mean, to that point, like, right? Like, it's been 5 years that I've been here now, and like, multiple times a year, I'm still down here, and somebody says someone's name, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, who are you talking about, Alex? Who are you talking about, Josh? And I think that just speaks to the amount of people whose lives have been touched by camp, but also the amount of people who, when their lives have been touched by camp, have then said, oh, okay, I want to be invested in what God's doing there as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what these students that become counselors are all saying the same thing of like, dude, counseling is even more amazing than it is to like hang out.
Well, and we see that. I think the high schoolers tend to have such a great experience at their camp, or maybe from 1-3 to 4-5 as they've grown up, and then they're like, well, I just want to be a counselor so I can be at camp again this year. And we get kids that are like, well, you're not quite old enough to be a counselor. Like, well, can I still come out and like serve food? Like, okay, well, come do that then.
We always need gophers, somebody to just run around.
Absolutely.
And listen, I will take anybody. I'll take anybody to help clean bathrooms at any point. At any point in the day. Yes. So you came into Miamisburg. Well, I didn't even know you went through. I knew you went through ordination, but I guess I didn't realize you were on the ordination team at the time.
Yes.
So you're the reason we have Daniel. So thank you for bringing Daniel. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. So you joined Miamisburg, and then you're there for maybe a hot minute. I mean, it didn't seem like you were there long before you got connected with camp. Yeah. How did you kind of get connected, right?
Okay, I'm gonna tell this story. I'm gonna not tell specifics for this story.
All right. We love a good news story with no specifics.
No, I'm going to talk about other camps, so I'm not going to, list names of other camps.
Okay. We'll hunt them down. We'll put them right here. Daniel's talking about these people.
So I only went to summer camp once as a student. I grew up. My family started going to a Church of God when I was 9 9 or 10 years old, but grew up going to a Church of God in another state, and so totally different summer camp. But we do state youth convention every year, and then we do IYC every other year, and we usually do like winter retreat for our youth group, and like those were our things. There was a state, and I know Camp Lebanon is just really Southwest Ohio, but there was a state camp that you could go to, and a couple kids from the youth group would go to it every summer. But I think I went exactly one time, and the really cool thing was that's actually where I felt called to ministry for the first time.
Hey.
It was like a terrible week of camp. I was going into 9th grade, so I was the youngest kid at the high school camp. I think there were students who got sent home from camp for sneaking into a cabin and doing some stuff they weren't supposed to be doing in the cabin.
Sounds like camp.
Ambulances got called like 3 times during the week.
Oh, gosh.
I think they were trying to like save some money, so they were reusing some food, and then there's some milk that's spoiled, and like 30 kids got food poisoning.
Oh, so my God. This was not Camp Lebanon. Let's just make sure we're specifying. This is another camp.
Totally different. Yes.
Unspecified.
Another state.
Yes.
So when we came here, I'm looking at our student ministry schedule, and I'm like, what are we going to do? And I was like, we're going to do state youth convention. We're going to do IYC.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come down to Camp Lebanon for a winter retreat or something. But like we can't do everything. Like we're gonna cut summer camp. Like we're not.
Yeah.
I'm not a summer camp guy.
Right. Yeah.
And Catherine.
And now you're running 9 times. I'm not really into summer camps. And hey, that's a big transition.
But no. So Catherine Schaefer, who Alex, I know you know her. I don't know Josh.
Did you meet?
Yeah. So she was the children's pastor at our church for a little while. And now she's out. Graduated from MacU and took a job as a youth pastor out in Oklahoma City. Shortly after I came here, but she like marched into my office and was like, "Listen, you have to go to Camp Lebanon. Like, we're taking the kids, and you have to take the students. Like, I don't know what you experienced at that other camp, but that's not the kind of ship that Camp Lebanon runs."
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean,
high praise from Catherine.
That was my initial introduction to camp, and then obviously just continuing to get.
Well, I'm glad you came, and maybe glad you got paired with Noah on a gator real quick. That could have scared you away really fast. So hopefully that didn't. Obviously, it didn't deter you. Obviously, you're here. So I guess
what was the original question? I think I was answering it, and then maybe I ended up in left field.
I think you're getting there. We're figuring this out. We don't know what we're doing.
Watcher, do not zoom back and find out. Just
so you came to Miamisburg. Obviously, Catherine kind of brought you out. So how did you get from kind of just bringing students into like more of a leadership role? I mean, we keep saying that that's kind of what happens, right? And it's cool to say that that's what happens, but I think it's cool to hear from you to hear how it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it honestly is just experience and growing in your role. You know what I mean? Like it's being faithful in the little things. It's learning the basics well, and then when you learn the basics well and you've been faithful in those things, then continuing to take on more responsibility each year. And so I mean, I think you to go back to your point, talking about students who came to camp and now are back at camp as counselors. It's the same kind of idea that you get plugged in, you get connected. The first year I didn't know where anything was. People were saying like the Tabernacle, and I'm like, great, what's that? Founder? I have no clue. Tutor. Is that the building up at the front? So some of it's just learning the vocabulary, but I think a lot of it is just being around camp, getting to know people.
I think there was clearly probably somebody, and maybe it's Andy, maybe it's one of the other summer camp team people, but I think clearly somebody recognized something about you, right? To say we got to get this guy in a more substantial role. I don't know if that's the right way to say that.
No, but it's people speaking into your life or into my life, and as there's people who speak into our lives, and then we grow, then we turn around and do the same thing with those who we're in ministry with, whether that be the high school students that we're working with, or volunteers from our churches and our ministries. You're talking about high schoolers who come back as counselors. There's a student who my very first year here in 2021, he was on. I helped out with sports, and we do all these different activity tracks, right? So one of the biggest ones is sports and rec. They need tons of counselors there.
Track.
I told you guys that I'm a sports guy, and so.
Me and Josh hang out at culinary track.
Yeah, right.
Because we are
all about culinary.
Yes,
I learned my lesson too. The first year, I was trying to do everything that everybody that all the students did, and I think I literally walked like my phone, which does not accurately track everything. My iPhone said put up 11 or 12 miles that day, which was probably like 15.
Yeah.
I was exhausted after
they
that first day.
They spread out everywhere. It's impossible to see them all.
But the student who was on my team for sports and rec freshman year, or excuse me, 2021 as a high school senior.
Yeah.
It was really cool because he really grew in his faith in God that year, to the point where when camp ended, he had graduated from high school, he went back and became one of the leaders in the young adult ministry at his church.
Awesome.
And so each summer I get the chance to see him at camp and kind of hear, hey man, how has the last year of your life gone? What's God doing in your life? How are you growing?
Yeah.
And then actually last summer he was back as a counselor at Camp 912 for the first time.
Awesome.
And I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm directing it for the first time. He's a counselor for the first time. And then I wasn't here, but I think he's coming back this year as a counselor, and so super excited, just on a personal level to see that.
I think that's awesome. Yeah,
there's something that's a blessing, or that. Well, I think that in youth ministry, you do things today for what you're going to see a benefit or a blessing of in like 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Is kind of how that works. You know, today you're putting in the energy and the patience with a young man, know, and trying to steer him the right direction. But 5 years later, he's in ministry himself, or a family thing, or something that you're like, wow, okay, it was worth that time 5 years ago that I spent that time, and there's nothing like camps to really see that, because we do that at camp with these kids, and then 5 years later, or we can look back to 5 years ago and kind of see, oh wow, these people who are leaders now, or in ministry, or maybe starting their own families, things like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, man, remember when they were just that little punk kid?
That makes you feel old, is usually.
Sure. Yeah.
You run into somebody and you're like, did you know you were my counselor? And I'm like, you're an adult with another with child with their own. And I'm like, my back hurts really bad right now.
That does not get any better.
No, I think that's one of the most gratifying things in the world is to watch students that kind of catch on fire here, want to pour back into it. And I think that's what makes Lebanon different. And I'm not saying like, look at us, we're great, we're amazing. But I mean, look at us, we're great, we're amazing. Right? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just like, we are, it's like its own little entity of just everybody wants to come back into it.
Sure.
Right? And kind of keep it growing and keep it expanding.
Yeah, there's like a microcosm of Camp Lebanon and camps.
Yeah.
Even we were here last night planning for camp meeting. And Zoe was with us. And as we got in the car, she's like, well, that does it. I'm done with the rest of this semester. I'm ready for camps now. Yeah. So we got probably a lot of high schoolers watching this because they want to get a glimpse, or they want to feel what's going to happen at camps. Tell them all about camps, what's going to happen at camps, which they'd be looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, registration just opened up yesterday morning.
And
I think there's something like already more than 60 kids signed up for it. More than 60 students signed up for
I think the moment
12 already.
The moment it opened, I think I probably had 27 missed calls of just like, hey, can I do this? Or hey, can I do that? Or hey, this, that, or the other. And I was like, wow. So
they're probably watching.
They're probably watching and be like, "I've been, it's been filled for 2 weeks now." By the time we show this or whatever.
I mean, we are always opening more spots.
Yes,
we have more counselors as well, though.
More counselors.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week of camp. Super excited about it. We're going to have a guy here named Jose Torres who's going to be our speaker for the week. Cool. Jose is actually one of my mentors. When I was in college studying ministry, I was an RA. He was the RD for our dorm. Before that, he had been a youth pastor for about 5 or 10 years. He was an RA or an RD for about 5 years, and then went back into youth ministry. And so he's a guy who's been a youth pastor for about 20 years, who spoke into my life big time in some of my formative years. And now he's going to come back and be our speaker at camp this year. If you guys are familiar with the expression like woo, right? Like someone who has like woo, who brings the energy to the room, like he brings it. So super excited.
That's what you need for a 912 is somebody to you need that hype man, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to admit right now that I just totally nodded and smiled along to that one, by the way.
You're just like, I totally heard of that phrase before.
I've got lots of woo. I keep woo in the back of the car.
I don't, charisma, I don't know exactly what that word is. I don't know how to describe it.
Yes.
I mean, He's a great guy. We got a guy named Gerardo Espinoza, who is the worship leader for the student ministry up at Brielle Church.
Oh, yes.
Him and his wife and some other people that they're connected to have led worship for their youth group there for like the last 7 years or something.
Yeah.
So they're coming out.
Yeah. They come out every winter with Brielle, and they're phenomenal.
There's probably people listening to this podcast who will. I just talked to Gerardo for the first time yesterday, but there's probably people who have already.
Well, there's only 4 people that actually listen, so hopefully one of those 4, right?
Exactly. There you go.
Well, Zoe twice.
Yes, 2 of them are Zoe.
I said 50 people earlier today, but I'm glad to know I named high.
Yeah.
We got a great slate of discipleship tracks. We're gonna have some fantastic activity tracks as well. The theme for this year is below the surface.
Yes.
It's from we're looking at where man looks at the outside appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so if God looks at the heart, then what is happening internally? In our lives. Not that what we do externally doesn't matter, but it should be an inside-out faith, right? What happens internally bleeds out into the way that we love other people and into the way that we live out our faith. But it starts internally, not externally. And so we're gonna dive deep into that with the theme of camp.
Jamie at like 1-3 was like explaining it too, like lowering. She kept like talking about lowering the water level, like showing a little more of like that iceberg,
absolutely.
like motif, right?
Yeah,
like
we talked about how 90% of an iceberg is underneath the surface. And it's the exact same way with our relationship, with God as well. So, I mean. It's going to be a great year.
I'm super excited.
If you've been at camp before, we're looking forward to the fireworks show on Thursday night. We're looking forward to the all-camp activity on Thursday afternoon.
Yes.
We're looking forward to having Kona shave ice here. We're looking forward to all the night games.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be
like some new activity tracks I heard about maybe that there's the normal like athletics one or something.
Yeah, so the five that we have this year.
Maybe there was like judo and chainsaw.
Oh, okay.
Daniel's like, no, I don't think so.
Josh and I are going to have a conversation off camera in a little bit here.
No chainsaw activities at 9:12.
Josh has just signed up to lead a couple of activity tracks.
Oh, we need Sensei Josh leading a judo class. That's what we need. Yeah. So I mean, the activity tracks are usually the sports and rec, which is the big one.
Yeah, so there's sports and rec. There is arts and crafts. Yeah. We're bringing culinary back again this year. We're super excited to have that culinary track. Outdoor survival, Noah Light does a great job with that one. And then the last one is tabletop games, which, I mean... Yeah.
I love tabletop games. Can I just
give a plug for tabletop games? Like, you get to come and sit in the air conditioning for a good chunk of the week during the middle of the summer. Yeah. And it's also like... Yeah, it's chill. Like it's one of the newer tracks we've added, so it's one of the smaller ones. Like there's like 15 people in there. Like if you want to come have a summer camp experience, and also just hang out with your 5 or 10 best friends at camp all summer, like that's the track. That's for the one.
I love going over there and hanging out with them just so I can figure out what games they're playing. So I know I know some of the ones. So when I'm hanging out with some buddies, I'm like, "Have you checked out this game?" And I feel like I got insider trader information. Yeah. Like, have you heard about this game? Like, yeah.
Right. Is that what Adam did last year? Is that right?
Yeah, Adam Rose there, Taylor Germany's there. Okay. Yeah, we have some fantastic track leaders. And then we have our biblical tracks on top of that. Our Bible tracks are and then their Devo times and everything like that. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just most excited about services. That is usually it's weird to like hear from the summer camp directors on the like post survey or whatever you want to call it, like the after camps like evaluation, right. And like there's students that are like, service time was amazing. Can we have longer worship time? And we're ready to just be like, can we have a second shaving cream more? Can we do like, you know what I'm saying? We were ready for like those kinds of things. And like Lindsay at 4 or 5 camp was there, and like they just wanted to be in service longer and having fun and doing like
that's fantastic, even for the 4th and 5th grade.
Right? That's a while at that age range. That's crazy to hear. Absolutely. So and 9-12 is just on top of that. I think my favorite service at 9-12 is always Thursday night. So Thursday night's the last service, right? Yeah. So like back when I was a counselor, right? Many moons ago, right? Long time ago. Thursday night was always my favorite because that's when all walls were broken down, right? Yeah. That's when like I'm just here because I want to play sports, right? Like those guys like broke down and was just, I mean, back to the iceberg mentality, was just showing their whole relationship, where they're at, and everything like that. I think that was the service to be at.
Well, there's something that's so cool about just putting your everyday life on hold for a week.
To
come to camp and to invest. Not that we're not investing in our relationships with God on a weekly basis. I mean, we should be investing in that relationship all the time. But there's something so cool about just saying, I'm putting life entirely on hold. And this week is, about having a ton of fun, right? Activity tracks and night games and everything else. But this week is first and foremost about growing in my relationship with Jesus. One of the things that's been really cool that we've seen the last couple years, and again, I wasn't here last year, but the last few years that I've been here, one of the really cool things to see is that, like, what you're describing happening on Thursday night, like those conversations and those experiences of being in God's presence and growing closer to Him, like there's been times where we have a counselor meeting every morning at 8:30 a.m. before students come to breakfast, where we're dragging ourselves out of bed and drinking our coffee and trying to hold our eyes open, but talking about what's God doing already and where are we going today. And one of the really cool things that we've seen is, like, camp is. Students are going deep in their faith. On Tuesday night and Wednesday night, Thursday night, but like throughout the whole week, when we're just getting into the swing of camp, and it's like, oh my gosh, God is working already. This is so cool.
What was it? It was a few years back, like when the power went out, right? I don't know what year that was. I black it out mentally, so I don't remember it. But it was like the worship band got like in the middle of the tabernacle, cool. And like it was just this full circle. Like that felt like that never ended, and it felt like no one wanted it to end. Right? It was that, and I think it was last year, the year before. Me and Joe Brooks are over there in Founders. We had like set up a night game. I want to say it was 2 years ago now. We set up a night game, and we're just chilling. We're just eating snacks because no one's over there. And we're like, are they still in service? Like, what's going on? And then we're sitting there, and we're like, did we just hear the bell ring? The salvation bell that's right out. We're in the tabernacle right now, right outside the tabernacle. Salvation bell. Did we just hear that ring? And then we just like go out, and you can just hear every student singing still. And then just bell ringing, people cheering. Like those flags are still hid around camp to this day.
Just thinking about
no one went and found those flags. We stole everybody's flags and hid them around camp. Then revival broke out, and we were like, all right, flags are staying there.
Joe, if you're watching this, and whoever else was happening out, Joe, thank you so much for doing all that. We're really excited that God had a bigger plan than that, but we also really appreciate all the work you did for that game that didn't happen.
And high schoolers, if you find a flag this year,
extra points if you find. We were. I'll give one spot away, but we were working on the covered bridge, right? Not too long ago, and me and another guy was underneath it, and he literally reached up and he went, "What is this?" And grabbed a plastic bag and has a flag folded up in it. I went, "Put that back," and he went, "All right," and just slid it. It's up underneath. So for the 4 people that listen, one person now knows the information of where that flag is.
Someone is going to bring that to one of us. One of the camps this summer.
Get a Snickers bar as a
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for letting us be your first podcast ever. Right? Well, you're at the bottom. Cool. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel, hanging out with me and Josh. So it's only up and up from here.
Podcast experience goes up. For
you guys have done a great job of hosting it. So.
No. So if we haven't seen you in a while, we'd love to see you. And until next time, later.
See you guys.